A once mighty empire fueled by oil and bravado, now teeters on the brink because its leader bet everything on a war he couldn't win. Vladimir Putin sold Russians a dream of restored glory. But tonight, that dream is curdling into nightmare-empty shelves, vanishing jobs and whispers of revolt growing louder by the day. How did the architect of endless aggression end up trapped in his own economic cage with his own people holding the key? We start not with spreadsheets or stock tickers, but with the human pulse of a nation grinding to a halt. Picture the frozen streets of Moscow this winter, where pensioners huddle not just against the cold, but against the sting of prices that have doubled for bread and milk since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine kicked off nearly 4 years ago. Official data from Russia's own central bank paints a grim portrait. Inflation clawing past 9% in 2025 alone, devouring savings and salaries alike. But dig deeper, and the real rot emerges independent economists. Those brave souls tracking shadows, the Kremlin tries to obscure peg-true inflation at over 15%, fueled by a war machine that chews through rubles like kindling. This isn't mere bad luck. It is the predictable fallout of sanctions that have sliced Russia's export revenues by a third. Oil that black gold Putin rode to power now sells at discounts so steep that even India and China, his so-called lifeline buyers, haggle like street vendors. Remember when Putin crowed about unlimited reserves in February 2022? Fast forward to today, foreign exchange coffers have shrunk from $650 billion to under $300 billion, usable assets with half locked away in Western vault. The central bank jacked interest rates to a punishing 21%, this fall a desperate tourniquet on a hemorrhaging economy. Businesses shutter, factories idle. In Siberia's industrial heartlands, steel mills that once hummed with exports now rust under the snow. Their workers funneled into uniform factories, churning out drones for a front line that is devouring lives and treasure. But let's zoom out to the geopolitical chessboard where Putin miscalculated spectacular. He banked on Europe's energy addiction to fracture NATO unity. Yet here we are. The United States and EU rerouted LNG shipments, turning Germany from gas beggar to diversified powerhouse. Russia's pivot to Asia, a fool's errand pipelines to China cap out at volumes that barely offset lost European markets. And Beijing extracts concessions that make Putin look like a junior partner. This is authoritarian hubris in action. A leader whose silenced dissent now faces the echo of his own isolation. Democracy thrives on adaptability. Voters boot failures, markets pivot. Autocrats, they double down, printing money to prop up a facade, inflating away the future. Now consider the power games behind the curtain. Putin's inner circle, those billionaire oligarchs and Siloviki enforcers, or promised spoils from Ukraine's grain belts and factories. Instead, their yachts rot in impound lots from Miami to Monaco, and their London mansions fetch pennies on frozen accounts. Rosinev's Igor Sechin, once untouchable, watches his empire hemorrhage as Saudi Arabia floods, markets with cheaper crude, undercutting Moscow's every maneuver. This elite deception trickles down. State media blares tales of economic miracles. Yet, satellite imagery reveals idle ports in the Black Sea. Ghost ships avoiding SWIFT like the plague. Historical echoes amplify the peril. Recall the Soviet Union's 1982 collapse. Oil at $10 a barrel, bread lines snaking for blocks, and Gorbachev's perestroika born of necessity. Putin studied that script, vowing never to repeat it yet. He scripted a sequel with worse odds. Afghanistan in the 1,980 seconds bled the USSR dry. Ukraine is doing the same, but with modern multipliers. Hypersonic missiles cost millions per pop, while Western aid to Kyiv multiplies every ruble spent, Russia's military budget. Now 40% of federal spending starves civilian sectors. Healthcare budgets slash 20%, education crumbling. Teachers in Novosibirsk strike not with placards, but quiet resignations. Doctors flee to Kazakhstan. Policy failures compound like interest on a bad loan. Putin's parallel import scheme, smuggling iPhones and Levis through Turkey and Kazakhstan props up consumer facades, but drains hard currency at $50 billion annually. Capital controls traps $600 billion in trapped rubles as businesses hoard rather than invest. Demographics seal the trap. A population shrinking faster than Japan's, with war debt estimated at 700,000 by Western intel, far beyond official tallies, exacerbating labor shortages in an economy already 30% smaller than pre-war projections. Mini reveal, but wait. While the Kremlin prints patriotic posters, a darker fracture simmers in the ranks of Russia's own security apparatus. What happens when the FSB's foot soldiers facing unpaid bills at home start questioning orders from above? That leads us straight into the heart of rebellion brewing, shifting focus to the human tinderbox. Russia's regions long milked as colonial cash cows now boil with resentment. Tatarstan and Bashkortostan resource-rich peripheries see local GDP plummet 12% as federal levies skyrocket to fund Putin's folly. Governors, those hand-picked loyalists, whisper of unsustainable burdens and leaked memos. Publicly, they parrot Moscow privately. They hoard grain against famine. Yakutia in the Far East. Diamond mines idled by sanctions on De Beers partnerships, reports youth immigration spiking 300%. These are Putin's cannon fodder enlisting for rubles that buy less every month. Examine the labor market's quiet implosion, unemployment officially at 2.5%. But real figures hover at 8 to 10% when you count mobilized workers yanked from assembly lines. Migrant flows, reversed and Tajik, once filling gaps flee conscription fears, leaving truckers idle and harvests rotting. Brostat fudges numbers, but power outages in Ivanovo tell the tale. Factories without parts unable to import semiconductors for machinery. This cascades into services, hospitality in Sochi, that Olympic ghost town down 60%. Muscovites vacation domestically, but at prices that mock their stagnant wages, averaging $800 monthly against $1,200 pre-war. Geopolitically, Putin's BRICS fantasy unravels. Brazil and South Africa mouth solidarity, but ramp up U.S. trade. India buys discounted oil but arms Ukraine with artillery. China's yuan loans come laced with territorial nibbles. And the Arctic Putin trades sovereignty for survival. This authoritarian alignment exposes a core weakness. Alliances of convenience fracture under stress, unlike NATO's treaty-bound resilience, where democracies share burdens equitably delve into elite power plays, where self-preservation trumps filthy. Gazprom's Alexa Miller, facing $100 billion in lost Europe contracts, diverts pipes eastward at huge losses. His bonuses intact via offshore shadows. Wagner's ghosts linger. Yevgeny Prigozhin's mutiny wasn't aberration, but symptom with mercenaries now folded into defense ministry, yet owed billions in baquet. Noni's network, though, crushed Inspire's digital sumized. Telegram channels with 10 million followers dissect budget black holes, revealing $200 billion in defense opacity. Historical pivot. Tsarist Russia's $1.985 revolution, ignited by Russo-Japanese defeat and bread riots. Bloody Sundays. 1,000 dead birth Soviets. Putin echoes Nicholas II dispersing protests with batons. But 2025 sees 50,000 economic arrests per OVD info. Mostly unsanctioned gatherings over pensions. Unlike 1917's Bolsheviks, today's dissident leverage AI deepfakes, exposing oligarch luxuries. Viral clips of Dhaka's untouched while babushkas queue for potatoes. Policy misfires escalate. National projects like digital economy, laughable with VPN bans crippling tech firms, Yandex fleeing to Israel brain drain hemorrhages, 1.5 million skilled workers gone since 2022 per UN estimates, gutting innovation shadow fleet of 600 tankers ski. RT sanctions, but insurance premiums, triple cost stranding oil at sea authoritarian control, backfires strategically conscription dodges, via bribes $10,000 to vanish hollows the army while cyber ops against falter as talent immigrates. Democracy's edge. Transparent debates forge policy. Putin's echo chamber breeds delusion, betting on Trump-era relief that never fully materialized amid U.S. bipartisan resolve, many reveal. Yet beneath this controlled chaos, a seismic shift brews in the heart of Russia's heartland. Not protests, but mass exodus and black market defiance, signaling the regime's legitimacy is evaporating. What if the people aren't just enduring, but actively dismantling the system from within? Enter the Exodus epoch. Russia's borders leak like saves with 2 million fleeing since mobilization. Young men, coders, engineers, bartering passports for Turkish rentals or Georgian startups. Flight paths to Armenia clog airports. Real estate into buys, booms on Muscovite cash. Locals griping. Russians saved us from poverty, but now price us out. This isn't flight of the rich, it is middle-class despair. Doctors trading scalpels for barista gigs in Yerevan, their remittances propping up families back home. Economically, black markets burgeon as state fails. Crypto remittances hit $15 billion yearly, bypassing banks. Barter networks revive Soviet-era swaps, tractors for tires, and rust-off. Underground dollar trade thrives in St. Petersburg metros. Rubles devalued to 110 per G reign back on streets versus official 95. This parallel economy mocks Putin's grip with oligarch fronts laundering via Dubai gold estimated at $50 billion flows. Global consequences radiate. Europe's energy independence accelerates green transitions. Wind farms in Baltic states mocking Nord Stream ghosts. Ukraine's resilience inspires global South Colombia and Mexico ice sanction models against Venezuela's Maduro. Putin's war economy model repels investors. FDI crashed 90%. FDI starved autocracies like Iran, watched nervously as their oil kin falters. Deeper mode of excavation. Putin's 2024 election, 87% sham, relied on apathy. But 2025 polls show approval dipping under 60% in independent Levada whispers. Regional elections in Siberia see united Russia hemorrhaging seats to technical independence. Kremlin plants who quietly sabotage quotas. Labor strikes masked as illness waves halt rail shipments to Donbas. Miners in Kuzbos withhold coal unless wages index to inflation. Historical crescendo. Brev stagnation ended in Gorbachev's glasnost. But Putin's Silviki state rigidifies further, censoring even weather apps for fake news on crop failures. Famine specter looms. Wheat exports have domestic silos guarded by troops as Ukraine blocks Crimea shipments. Nutrition surveys reveal caloric intake dropping 10%, stunting a generation. Strategic blunders culminate, hypersonic hype yields to reality. Caused down by patriots, exposing R&D waste. Allies waver. North Korea's shells cost premiums. Iran's drones falter against F-16 second. Democracy's innovation loop. U.S. venture capital birthing Starlink for Ukraine forces asymmetry. Putin can't match. Policy autopsy. Import substitution flop microchips 5 years behind. Auto industry turn-earning lot sans engines. Welfare eroded, maternity capital devalued 40%. Birth rates crashing to 1.1 per woman. Social contract phrase loyalty for security traded for penury. The big reveal. Intelligence leaks confirm FSB purges internal 50 top officers sacked for disloyalty. Whispers of coup plots tied to unpaid Salvaki pensions. This isn't stability. It is implosion where authoritarian missteps birth their antithesis. Decentralized resistance via blockchain funds arming Ukrainian partisans. So here we stand. Putin's fortress, built on deception and domination, crumbles under the weight of its own delusions. A stark warning that authoritarian gambles exact a toll no propaganda can erase. Democracies endure because they bend with truth. Tyrannies shatter against it. The moral ledger is clear. Russia's suffering indicts not just one man, but the entire machinery of suppression that prioritizes conquest over citizen. Will the world keep watching as this collapse accelerates or step up to hasten the dawn of accountability? What are we waiting for? Or the final bread riot, or the chance to tip the scales toward freedom?